Hello, hello. My name is Linda, also known as Tortajala around the internet, and I love creative journaling and all things stationery. So today I wanted to do a stationery chit chat, but in this first installment, I'm actually going to flip through my entire stationery journal, and it sort of goes through like a bit of my history, I guess, of this stationery hobby for me. Um, so definitely settle in for a very long and chatty video to go through all these spreads of my journal. So this is an A5 Hobonichi cover that I bought in 2022. So it was like the 2023 release of the Hobonichi planners and covers. So this specific design is from textile designer and illustrator Eri Shimatsuka. The cover itself is called Hedelmapu, and I think they had it in the A6 size as well. It's a word in Finnish that means fruit tree. So just directly, obviously, of what this illustration is, but I just really love like the colors, the style of the illustration, just so inspiring to me. And when I saw it, I sort of like knew I was going to get this cover. And that particular year, I used the Hobonichi cousin in this cover. And previously, I did have a cover on it, but I recently just decided that I'm not going to use a cover on cover unless I want to um, add deco on like a plain cover because I really want to feel this fabric. This cover is like a canvas type of fabric, both outside and inside. And yeah, it just feels way better than holding plastic. And I know it can get dirty, but I'm just trying to get over all of those feelings. Like I really want to use all my things to the fullest. So this cover did have two bookmarks that were actually way too thick, so they were not good as bookmarks. It was like some kind of leather or like faux leather kind of cord with beads at the end. It was really pretty, but the cord was so thick that you could actually like wrinkle your paper if you weren't careful. So it was not really useful. The reason why I cut them out of this cover though is because my baby girl pulled at the beads when this was sitting on my desk one day and just sort of like snapped the cord. So I was like, okay, I'm not using them anyway. I might as well just cut it all off. So let's go on the inside. This cover has like the same type of pocket configuration of most of the Hobonichi covers that have the two pen loops, like the butterfly loops. So I mostly just use them as deco because this journal doesn't really go anywhere. It's like on my desk. So yeah, it's all just deco. I am using an A5 Stalogy here, so the 365 days one. So there are plenty of pages for me to document for years and years. And this Stalogy happens to be the Yoseka stationery one because it's in their Yoseka green color. So the reason why I chose this particular notebook to use as my stationery journal documentation is because it was made by Yoseka. For years and years, I've been following them, watching their YouTube videos, following them on Instagram, like basically learning a whole lot about stationaries and all of the cool brands out there. And of course, they are sharing like products that they sell, but it's also like just a lot of stationary chit chat, like where they talk about, yes, things that are new and new products, but also what they're up to, teaching you about certain like topics in stationery to help educate. And so I know they don't know me, but I feel like I know them. You know what I mean? How it is when you follow someone on social media for such a long time. So I sort of think of Yoseka Stationery as like these stationery buddies, obviously loving the same things and being in this hobby and just really appreciating like the whole stationery world and stationery things. So I thought this stalogy would just be perfect to document everything about stationery and journaling for me. And the idea of having this kind of journal, it's not only because I compartmentalize. Obviously, if you have watched any of my videos in the past, you'll know that I have like separate journals for different themes or topics. So what happened was I originally had Happy Mail kind of stuff in a traveler's notebook insert in multiple ones. I actually had three. I mean, mostly my happy mail is stationery. So I was putting in like just all kinds of stuff because sometimes, like, stationery, especially, it's packaged so well. You have so many like little tidbits. So it was sort of like junk journaling, but I wasn't really like discerning. I was just adding everything into those inserts because I just didn't want to throw away all the cute little tidbits, right? But sometimes I would not like have any writing at all in those pages, really just like a collection of all the Happy Mail stuff. And I realized that it was something that I couldn't even share because I was sticking like packaging in and things, and it would have like, my personal address or certain types of documentation that are really personal. So, like, I wouldn't want to put out there in the internet. So it couldn't be shared publicly. And obviously I could blur things out and things like that, but it was just, difficult. So like I never shared them. And as I've been more active on YouTube and growing, this whole stationary community thing, and I realized that it was sort of weird to not share it because it's such like a thing, like I have this whole journal and this whole effort in just documenting all the things about stationery and journaling, it would be perfectly suited to share, but I, just didn't have it set up to do so. And I've been meaning to do a stationary chit chat kind of video, probably on a monthly basis, because oftentimes there's like these little topics that I want to talk to someone about when it comes to the stationery world, but it's like not a big enough topic maybe for like a whole video. And so I thought, just like how I do my fountain pen catch up like chit chat videos, I would do a stationery focused one. So like stationery and journaling, where we would just chill out and talk about all the stationery things for the past month. So that is what this video really is about. But this first one, I'm obviously going to show this whole um, flip through of the stationery journal that I have so far. So it's definitely going to be a longer installment or beginning, I guess. So I'm always decluttering, and this past year I've definitely focused a lot on my personal like stationery things and journals. And those Happy Meal inserts that I mentioned, I decided to just rip them apart, like cannibalize them, and put it all into this A5 Stalogy journal so that I could do a proper stationary journal that I could also share so it wouldn't have like, personal addresses or information. So it's somewhat like documenting like Happy Mail and things, but definitely more like my thoughts and reflections as well, and not just sticking in um like packaging, So as I was working to fill up this notebook, because I was backlogging in a sense because I was like grabbing all the stuff from these old inserts and putting them in here, I realized that there's also such a big difference between journaling something in real time, like in the present moment when it happens and you like journal about it, versus like thinking back and then saying like, okay, I'm gonna document this, and how you would journal and write about the topic much after the fact. I realize that this is probably a topic for a whole other video, but I don't know. It's always been something on my mind, and I find it very interesting. Like, I wonder, do people, like, have you ever thought about it? Like, do you prefer journaling about something in the moment, or do you actually prefer to do it later? Like, people always talk about backlogging, but I mean, it's always going to be after because you can't be journaling in the moment that something happens. But like if you're doing it afterwards, there's sort of like a different perspective and frame of mind, and you could obviously reflect about the topic um much more differently, right? Than when you journal in real time. So I found it interesting that I could do this stationary journal like after the fact because I could sort of look back at like phases of my journaling um, journey and my love for stationery. So I could do, little abstracts, right, to like sort of summarize a whole like phase. Because obviously, if you're doing the journaling way after, you're not going to remember like super tiny details, or it would be harder to. And that's why we like to journal in the moment, right? Like you capture maybe little things that you forget. But after the fact, when you're farther away from the event, you definitely have more like perspective. I think that's the right word, but you see maybe the big picture, if that makes sense. So I find that there's very interesting aspects of journaling in real time and in journaling like after the fact. Two different things, maybe, two different types of documentation or memory keeping. I realized that because I do morning pages, brainstorming or like stream of consciousness kind of writing, I really like that to get my thoughts out, and I know that it's going to be tossed and destroyed. So there is a lot of freedom when you know it isn't going to be kept. I know that seems strange, and I know some people do keep their morning pages, and there's nothing wrong with that, of course, but I just really like dedicating, like I know all the morning page stuff, it's like whatever. Say whatever, do whatever, scribble, be angry, like just go at it, and I can let all that stuff out, and I know that it's not, you know, gonna be kept, or I don't need to worry about it being like quote unquote something that I'm intending to keep. And then I have my other journals like this one where it is very much memory keeping, like documenting, and the idea is that I'm going to keep it. Of course, things can change always, but like that is the intention. Yeah, so I have been journaling since I was a kid. I think my first diary was a Sanrio diary, like at age 8, and I do still have that one. Um, and I have sketchbooks, from teen years, like that kind of things. So I do have things from the past, but I've also thrown away things that don't matter as much to me and like cannibalize. When I say cannibalize, I mean that I rip apart the journal and I only keep the parts that I want and get rid of the other parts. And I know some people are like, "No, you shouldn't do that. You should just keep everything." That's true. But like I I do that because I need to reduce the amount of things that I have. I mean, I it has been many years, so you can imagine the accumulation of things. And so I like the fact that I could curate and constantly just sort of like pare down the things that I have to, a smaller amount. And do I regret like throwing away old things? Like, not really at this point. I think because if you're always creating, it's just, I don't know, it's just okay. If it was something that I really, really loved, then I would have kept it. So I don't know. I'm sort of okay with the system and like the way that I do things right now. So, okay, on the front here, this illustration I drew digitally myself, and I have used one of those Dymo labels to write stationery lover here. And currently, I have put the MD paper, the codex plastic cover. It's meant for like the Midori one day, one page codex, but I used it. I had an extra one basically. So I put it on this for protection, even though I realize, I mean, I have like multiple covers here. I don't know if it's really necessary, but the whole MD paper codex thing is just like another funny stationery fiasco. Maybe I'll share it in a future video. But yeah, that's the cover that I put here. And a lot of people do buy that cover to put like on their Hobonichi cousin and similar sized books because sometimes it's hard to find a plastic cover for those books. And just a tip, um, if it's a tight fit, one, you can always slip in a very thin, like a regular printer piece of paper inside the plastic cover to help you like shimmy in your book so that it slides better. Because usually things slide better on like just regular paper surface than on this plastic surface. And another thing you can do is if it seems like it's too small for the book, like it won't close, you can actually blow dry the plastic, obviously carefully, like you don't want to burn anything, but basically you're making it, warm and malleable, and then you like close the book and stack a bunch of stuff on it and let it cool down, and it basically like stretches the plastic. So I have done that myself and it totally works. So it gives you like a few millimeters of, clearance depending on what A5 size book you're using. So that's just a tip there if you wanted to know. So here I have saved some of the Stalogy packaging. And you can see this is the 365 days notebook A5 size, the Yoseka green grid pages, And actually, this is my first time using Astrology. I've known about them for like a very long time. I follow Doxina Plans on Instagram for years, actually, also on YouTube. And she always uses Astrology, like a B6 Astrology for like everything. And I didn't really know what to expect though, because I don't think it's necessarily the best for fountain pens, but at the same time, it does work if you're using like, fine nibs and stuff. But yeah, so far I haven't had any issues and it seems to work, so I'm good with it. The sticker here on the front is by Salam Creative. I really love her illustrations and her stickers. I will talk about her later as well. Next page, I ripped apart a La Dolce Vita paper bag to use as decoration for this opening page. I thought it was just very fitting. And then next, I have another deco here on the left-hand side, a postcard from Thon Illustrates. I follow her on Instagram, and she basically did a collab with a stationery store in France, 85 Rue Tranquille by Cece. I love her store, always buy stuff from her. And so I just put the postcard here for decoration because I wanted to keep it. And again, here I've put some of the Stalogy like packaging, like it talks about their about us vision kind of blurb. And so I'm journaling about why I love stationery and all the analog things to sort of like open up and start this journal since it is my stationery journal. And again, because I started this journal this year, obviously I'm like backlogging a lot of stuff because I sort of wanted to like do a brief history of all like the stationery things in my life. So this very first spread is actually about my childhood and spending all my allowance money at the Sanrio store. I think that that was really the beginnings of my stationery hobby in a way. Pens, pencils, cute erasers, pencil cases, all of that kind of stuff. It was very accessible, and that was like the one, cutesy kawaii kind of store that was like at the local mall that I would see and have access to all the time. Little Twin Stars was my favorite, so I was just journaling about that on this page. By the way, in this journal, I'm using um, my Mahjong A1 fountain pen. It's like a Pilot capless dupe, but it doesn't have the clip. It's still a pretty heavy pen, like metal, and it is inked with Ferris wheel press Spruce County Post. And I think I'm just gonna stick with this ink in this like whole journal because the color, it just makes me think Yoseka green. So it sort of matches. It's like all matchy matchy. So yeah, I'm just gonna go with that. Okay, so the next spread, I'm basically um, journaling about my scrapbooking phase when I fell into that hobby. And it was actually before I had kids. I know a lot of people start scrapbooking when they have kids because they want to document like their kids' development. But for me, it was something that I fell into because I had like a life change, a job change. I had much more time to pursue like creative things. And that's what led me to like crafty hobbies, card making, scrapbooking, all of that kind of stuff. So that is what I have talked about here. And on the next page, I have a sticker bomb spread. I really love doing pages like this. And I know, to some people it might seem excessive or crazy because you're like using so many stickers and there's like no apparent, meaning or connection. But I don't know. I love creating full spreads. This is not the first time that I've done this. In all variety of sizes, A5 size, A6 size, anything. Sometimes I just want to fill a whole page with stickers because I love the stickers and I love stationery things. So I will let myself do that. And I usually say it's like a sticker bomb kind of page. So that's what I have here, which was. It was originally like in my Happy Mail inserts, and then I like cannibalized it and put it in here, and then like added more stickers and just fill it all up. So I really love this. So yeah, it is just like representative of my obsession of all the cute things, stationery things, and especially stickers. And then in the next spread, I am journaling about my reflections about just like the stationery hobby and how I want to be moving forward. I know it's definitely like a slippery slope kind of thing, not just in stationery, but any hobby, right? Like in the beginning, you just have a few things. Maybe you have like a few rolls of washi tape. You just discover the hobby. And then like the years just pass and suddenly you have like a drawer full, right? So I just have been journaling about my reflections and wanting to be more mindful about things, and obviously still loving all the things and wanting to enjoy the hobby and, discover new products, new things, new designs, etc., but also wanting to use all the things. Um, and then next, we are moving into very specifically all the old Happy Meal inserts that I previously had that I've like taken apart and used in this journal as I go from page to page. I definitely threw away a lot of stuff because, like I said before, I was not very discerning and I just like stuck everything in, like all the packaging, all the things. And of course, that makes it so that your inserts, like your journal, is just way too big. So I did throw away a lot of things that just didn't have meaning to me. And I picked and chose things that I actually want to keep and remember, and created these pages and spreads so that I could actually journal a bit and like reflect. So this is a collage of many of the lovely Italian and other stationery like sticker shops globally that I discovered um, after getting more like savvy at ordering things online, because I didn't used to always be able to just go on the internet and like order things from anywhere in the globe. I think it's a lot easier nowadays, right? But if you go back like, 10 years or something, it probably wasn't as easy. If something especially like wasn't in your language, right? Um, so if you don't already know, I am American. I was born and raised in Los Angeles, California, but I moved to Italy more than 15 years ago and have been living here since. And at the time that I moved here, Amazon did not it's not that it didn't exist. Amazon existed in the US, right? But it was not here in Italy yet. It had not yet expanded. Now, today, there's like Prime membership. It's basically exactly the same of what you would be able to access in America. So it just goes to show like how much things have changed in like, 10 years kind of thing. So these washi tapes and stickers are from Italian designers that I discovered, like Aubreo Boutique, My Fairy Planner, Angela Smile, Tenfall, which unfortunately is no longer designing and selling, so sad. But it just made me realize like there's so much more out there, and I was definitely very interested in looking for local people or people in Italy and not just on all like the popular big names, in America. I also found shops in Europe, like Nikki Dotti in the Netherlands. And this sticker here is from Happy Daya. Um, Next page here, I have a page about Kiroku Studio. Uh, she, the shop is in Germany, and but currently she's on hiatus because she decided to take like a year off to be with her little kids. So that is very cool. But another, shop in Europe. This here is from a shop called Pen Paling Paula. She used to be located in Ireland, but now she is in Spain, and she does a lot of like washi tape, stickers, postcards, and letter sets, like obviously pen paling based. And here, this is Eleanor Marianne. It's a stationery store in Florence and also online, and it's local to me. And this was like pivotal for me to realize that, like, duh, there are, stationary people everywhere in the world, even in Italy. I just had to find them. And it's such a huge community of people who just love stationery. They buy her, diary every year, but really, I don't know if people necessarily use it for planning. I think it's much more about journaling, like daily journaling. And she loves stickers, she loves deco, she loves like cutting out collaging. So that is like the style there. Um, and of course, the next spread I have dedicated to my favorite shop, 85 Rue Tranquille, Cece, who lives in France, and she runs her shop from there. And yeah, I discovered her. I don't even know how I discovered, I mean, on Instagram, I guess, and like since the beginning. And it just made me realize like I really love being a patron of a shop, like with an actual person. I mean, I don't actually know her personally, just over social media, but I don't know, I just love that she's bringing a lot of brands that are really hard to find in Europe. So her shop is definitely a favorite. um, I will leave links down below of all the things that I mentioned, in case you're interested. Uh, and yeah, She ships globally, and I'm sure there are different rates like for different locations. But yeah, in Europe, I'm always on the hunt for like European shops because it's just a lot easier for me to buy within the EU because like the price is the price, and you don't have to like worry about extra customs and things. Okay, next is a spread I did a journal about Brandy Kincaid. I subscribed to her extravagant hope mail for a while. I stopped only because I had so much stuff, like I felt like I had to use it before getting more. But if you watch like Simone on YouTube, you'll know that she subscribes as well and like has a bunch of her stuff. You basically get like a snail mail packet full of like encouraging artwork, postcards, stationery bits, stickers, whatever. It's like different all the time. Yeah, it's just really feel good, motivational kind of artwork. And you can subscribe to her newsletter if you don't want to subscribe to like a mailing kind of thing, because even just her newsletter is really, really, um, yeah, just like inspiring, like someone who just always gives like the cozy feel good vibes through her work and all that she shares. Of course, you can just go to her website and, buy things like one off, not necessarily signing up for a subscription. Yeah, next, here I'm basically up to 2023 because I'm documenting about the Travelers Company release and all the things I bought, and how I usually shop from this shop here, Stilo and Stile. It's an Italian shop in Rome. They sell big brands like Hobonichi, Midori, Travelers, and lots of fountain pen stuff. Because they're in Italy, I mean, it's not really local to me, like I can't physically go there so easily, but because it's in the country of Italy, it's super easy for me to shop from there. Stuff will arrive in like a day or 2 days max. Um, so I usually get fountain pen stuff from here, but also like Hobonichi and Travelers. So that's where I get a lot of my stuff. And I know that I mean, they're really big, like they're very organized. They have like a huge warehouse. Like their shop itself is not that big, but I think their warehouse is huge because they do a lot of online sales for all of Europe, but I know people from the US and that purchase from them as well. Um, so yeah, I'm just journaling about the whole Traveler's Company, the love for the whole aesthetic, the vibe, travel journaling kind of stuff. And next, I have a spread about my obsession with Filofax binders and also Moleskine notebooks, amongst other brands like Clairefontaine, Rhodia, etc. Because there was a whole phase where I was just really hyper focused and doing all the research, learning about a gazillion different Filofax models. I personally really like a lot of the vintage models, meaning like the ones that are not in production right now. Um, I I just think they're better quality, honestly. But generally, I love, binders because it's like you can document things in a bound journal, but that caters more to like chronological, right? Because obviously, you're using page by page. But a binder, it's almost like a living, breathing notebook for as long as you want to continue to update it because you can add pages in anywhere, you can remove pages, you can shuffle them. So I actually rarely use like my binders for planning. I really only have some minis that I use for planning, but most of them, I use them for journaling or for documentation, like for archiving stuff, basically. And it's when I want things to be able to be like edited or shuffled, when I need that flexibility, that it makes more sense for it to be in a binder than for it to be in like a bound notebook. Also helpful if you have like a very fat or like giant binder, if you plan to add in really bulky items, because having the rings, the fact that it's not bound pages, it can accommodate like giant things. Because if you keep gluing in giant things to a bound notebook, even though something like a Hobonichi, it won't break, right? Like the binding will live on, but it's just a really unwieldy kind of book to flip through. Whereas if it's in a binder, um it's just really handy to be able to like flip through a bunch of pages. And then on this side, it's the topic of moleskin, which I know is controversial because some people like hate the brand, and then there are people who love it. There's definitely something, right? Like they've been around for a long time, and a lot of people still buy their notebooks, so obviously there's something there. They are an Italian brand. You can find them easily here in Italy, and I do think that they're very pricey for what you get, but maybe it's because I use fountain pens, so then I'm like, they're not good for fountain pens. Like their paper isn't really made for fountain pens at all. And I don't know if they really advertise that. So, um, but I think sometimes people forget that the majority of people like out in the world, they don't use fountain pens, right? I'm pretty sure fountain pen users are like a smaller, subset of the population. So like if you imagine, um, that you're not thinking about fountain pens, the Moleskine notebooks are perfectly fine. They're really nice, and from my experience, they do hold up. You know what I mean? They don't break apart. Um, so I don't know. I have a love-hate relationship with them because I really like. I still think they're expensive, so I don't buy them like full price. I usually only buy them when they're like discounted. I also like to buy like the outdated ones because I just use the notebook as a scratch notebook rather than like the dates. And it's because I do like the quality of the notebook itself. From my experience, none of my Moleskine notebooks have like fallen apart. Like literally the cover has come off, you know what I mean, from um the pages or the page block or something like that. Whereas if I buy like the dollar store notebooks and stuff like that, it can definitely happen. Yeah, so the Moleskines hold up to use, even when I'm like gluing things, collaging, etc. So yeah, I buy the outdated discount ones to collage in, to play in, and I don't have to worry much because it's a pretty inexpensive notebook when you get them on discount. But those journals are usually not the ones that I keep forever either, because in the end I probably sort of like cannibalize them. So yeah, that's one thing. Next, I have documented Hobonichi. So I have the 2023 flyer because that is what I could find. But my very first Hobonichi was actually the black planner, the arts and sciences version in English from let's see, 2021. I used it religiously. Daily journaling filled it all up in 2021. And it was the first year that I used a fountain pen every single day as well. So, yeah, that was like the beginning of this like more intense stationary life, I guess, because it was Hobonichi and it was fountain pens, like all together consistently for a year. Um, and so I think that's why I will always like appreciate Hobonichi for being a part of my like stationary journey there. It's not to say that I'm a diehard fan because I use all kinds of other things. Um, so the year after 2021, I actually got a Kimbor because it was cheaper, and I also wanted that layout because the A5 Kimbor, it only has daily pages and not weeklies. And I knew that I wouldn't be able to keep up, right? So that's why I got the Kimbor. Of course, I hit up with the problem of adding way too much ephemera and stuff. So by the time June hit, um, my book was so big, I just couldn't take it and I stopped mid-year and I moved into like a weekly good ink impressions notebook for the rest of 2022 because I wanted to try like weekly memory keeping to see if I like that more than daily. I'm happy to have tried out the variations though because it helped me to learn that I do not like weekly, not for like my A5 size memory keeping. So in 2023, I actually did go back to Hobonichi. That's when I bought this cover and with the cousin inside, and I do have videos showing this so you could see, but it got huge. It was like I don't know, 6 inches, like fat, like tall. It was too much. And it's because I just put too much stuff in it. But over the years, I've really changed the way that I document, and I think that I've um, figured out a lot of things, and so it's gotten better. So just to bring you up to speed, in 2023, I used the cousin, and then in 2024, I used the Midori One Day One Page, the one that has the months in the front and then like all undated pages because I realized that I like daily pages, but not dated because there would be days that I have nothing to document, and then I would be like forced to put something on it, like deco stickers, a quote, whatever. But that would just add more bulk. So without the dates, I could just enter entries as I wanted and also use multiple pages for events that actually require like more space. I don't know. I think especially if you have kids and stuff, or if you do like a lot of vacations or events, like you have so many photos, right? So if you want to document your photos in your memory keeping, you're going to need more space for certain days, and then you're not going to need certain days, if that makes sense. Um, Maybe it's because I come from the scrapbooking world, so I just like to include a lot of photos. So yeah, that's why in 2025, this year, I'm using the MD paper frame notebook. So it's basically still an A5 Midori notebook, but it's blank. I really like the Midori cream paper. Like literally, I think it's my favorite type of paper. I really like Midori. So yeah, I really could use like any blank notebook. But this form of memory keeping for me, like my A5 memory keeping, has transformed into something that is specifically for my kids, for my family, and I automatically do it without having to be reminded. I'm never really behind. It's like become like habit. So it's probably my most consistent documentation. Um, and it's definitely gotten less bulky because I think I've gotten to a point where I'm good at the compartmentalizing, because when I first started doing this A5 kind of documentation, like sometimes my rants, like my personal journaling and stuff, would like creep into it, and it would be like this weird mix. And I think that other people, you might be able to relate because sometimes that's not the kind of stuff that you want in this type of memory keeping. So basically, over the years, I have realized and distilled down to the point where these A5 memory keeping notebooks for me have a particular audience because my kids flip through it family. So these are really the memory keeping, like family stories. And I keep it to that and I don't add other stuff. So that's why, even for a whole year, I think that the regular Midori um, notebooks, A5 notebooks that have like 170 something pages, it works. Like that's enough. Um, yeah. Okay, so that was like a huge tangent. I just gave you a history of my memory keeping. But yeah, Hobonichi sort of started it all in terms of doing it in a notebook form instead of like, scrapbook pages and stuff. So yeah, definitely something that is a huge part of my stationery journey. So next page, I have done a whole spread for Salam Creative because I love her designs as well. She does washi tapes and stickers. So I have like this huge swatch page, and just wanted to document that, include that here because I support her and love her stuff. And next, I have documented my first Travelers Company caravan event in 2023, the summer of 2023. I just happened to be visiting my brother in the Bay Area, and they had the caravan event, so I went on like on the weekend when I was able to go. I had my like baby strapped to me. It was really cool to be able to do something in person and be insanely geeky about stationery and Travelers Company. Now, the event itself was days before. It was like in the middle of the week, and I couldn't go on that particular day. I went on like, I don't know if it was like a Saturday or a Sunday afternoon or something. There weren't really many people at the store because the event had already started and happened, and their exclusive stickers and all that kind of stuff, they were like gone. The lady that worked there, she told me it was like crazy the first day and people just bought everything and everything they were like out. So when I got there, they had very few like actual travelers notebooks products to buy. It was like slim pickings. I did have my Traveler's Diner TN with me because that is what I was using to document. So I stamped the inside of it and I also bought a bunch of inserts, like whatever they had. They had some like sketch inserts and like passport inserts. So I bought them because I wanted to stamp like a whole insert to give to a friend. And then my daughter wanted one to stamp herself. And then I got one for myself just to like stamp all the stamps. And I took my time. We were there for like hours, I think, because it's also an art store. It was Flax Art and Design in Oakland, California. So like we were exploring the whole store as well. And so I took my time, and it was so nice to just like there was no one else, so I wasn't bothering anyone. I could just use the stamps for as long as I wanted and stamped like a gajillion things and, just enjoyed my time. And so yeah, that's documentation for all of that and just one of like the really cool things about in-person events. And I think at the end I did meet someone who was there to buy like Traveler's Company and like chatted a little, but I realized that it's a very specific experience because it wasn't the crowds and the craziness and I had my kids with me and stuff, but like all the things were there, but it was very calm. So even though I in the future I would love to do like in-person events, but I'm also very afraid because I'm definitely an introvert and I get overwhelmed easily and I don't think I would do very well at like large events where it's like so much stuff is going on. It definitely seems overwhelming. But yeah, that's the spread for documenting that experience. On the next page, I did a page about junk journaling because I also had a phase where sort of connected to the whole Happy Mail documentation, where everybody was doing like their quote unquote junk journals, which really is about collecting found papers, right? But it really, like to me, it starts to get into the creative journaling territory because yes, you can use found stuff, but you can also obviously, buy papers, print out papers. To me, it's more just like a mixed collage style. I'm sure some people have very specific styles. Like there's the, shabby chic kind of style, the vintage looking style. I don't know. You can define it as whatever you want. But I think that the idea is that you can use a lot of found stuff and ephemera. But you could also, print out stuff if you want. And so I had this big phase. I was following the challenges on Instagram and just doing a lot of like collage creative kind of stuff. And you could find those videos on my channel. Um, and so I just wanted to document that. And then next, I also documented when I purchased this Moterm leather binder. I know a lot of people, you probably know of the brand Moterm because they were like the more affordable but actual leather binders from China. And I had to buy this one because it was the grapefruit colorway. I think it's a color that's pretty hard to find in general, like amongst, leather things. And for some reason, I just connected it to my father, my late father, who he grew a grapefruit tree and it's still in the backyard of his old house. And um, I think of him, like, even though he's passed away, I tend to think of him always in connection to like grapefruits. And yeah, it's just this weird connection. I don't know. It's interesting how our brains work, right? Like, obviously, we assign importance to things because there's this signal that happens when you see like a particular object or motif or a smell, a color, it makes you think of something. So that's why I ended up getting this leather binder. I also have the same binder in personal size, which I use for documentation for my oldest daughter. But this pocket one is for me, where I collect like creative pages and tidbits and stuff. And I will share it at some point because I recently just added a whole bunch of stuff uh, to it, which might be slightly shocking, but yeah. Anyways, uh, all that to say, I documented this in particular because this particular binder gave me grief because there was the whole leather bloom issue happening. It's where, like, I don't know if it's like glue or fat or something comes out of the leather and it looks like mold because it's like this white powdery substance that starts appearing on random spots in your leather and it's super annoying. So I know people say that this can happen to many things like leather jackets, things like that. I just don't have experience with it and I would rather not deal with it. So I don't think I would ever buy Moterm again, even though I'm sure it was like a very specific issue, like a specific batch kind of thing. But I also think that the pricing of things, like there's not as much difference in price between Moterm and other brands now. Like they used to be much cheaper, and like now the prices, everything's has risen in price. Also, my online friend Kati Plans here on YouTube, we shared like this whole saga because she bought this same grapefruit pocket binder from Motor like around the same time. Like we didn't know, but we bought it at the same time and we're both in Europe. So we both probably had the same batch that had this problem. And I think that she sold hers. But, anyways, that's what this entry is about. A little bit of stationary drama for you. Next page, I have documented Hobonichi 2024. Um, so I have the Hobonichi weeks. Um, I had bought it actually discounted after the fact because I was like backlogging a little bit my personal life log in the Hobonichi weeks. So when I was talking about how like I've compartmentalized things, it's because I have this Hobonichi weeks where I can put personal stuff. It is memory keeping, but it's like me, as opposed to the A5 memory keeping that is like kids, family, and different. So the Hobonichi weeks, it could have like negative things, rants, like whatever, just random things that I wouldn't necessarily put in that other A5 memory keeping. So yeah, it is separate. So as I've mentioned before, like, and if you've seen on my channel, you will know that I do have different books for different things. And I think because it's separated, that's why it has become more manageable. And one book is not like, 10 inches wide kind of thing if you're putting it all in one place. And I know for some people, they just can't do multiple books. It's like too much. And I totally get it. It really just depends how much time you have and like what you're documenting and how you want to separate things. I think it's just very personal. Like you have to figure it out for yourself. So I have just found throughout the years in trying different things, I've come upon like a certain, system. So back to this book, I have an entry here for an illustrator that I discovered on Instagram, Jessica from Holland. Her brand is called Escalou. She does super cute illustrations. I just love them. I bought like her art prints to put on my wall, and a bunch of stickers. Her illustrations, for some reason, they just make me think of my kids. I don't know, they're just super cute. They're innocent, playful. Sometimes they've got attitude. Like, I just love them. And oftentimes she'll have prints with like three animals, and I don't know why that just immediately makes me think, oh, it's my three kids. So, yeah, check out her website if you're interested in her artwork. And then I have an entry here about my Kakamori brass dip nib, which I actually won from a giveaway from the Outsider's Journey, which is a shop in France. And I also have like snapshots of my fountain pens because I had this whole period of hyper focusing on my fountain pens. I mean, I still, you know, am focused on my fountain pens and using them and stuff. So I actually haven't journaled this yet. I need to add something here. But it's maybe because I'm still in the middle of it and I will add journaling, but I'm like sort of still thinking about it, I guess. Yeah, and on this side, I have an entry for Vinted, which is a website where you can buy and sell old stuff. So I think it's really good because it actually did help me to de-stash some stuff. But I also ended up buying a lot of stuff because, I discovered the vintage market kind of thing. So yeah, a lot of feelings on this, like back and forth, like buying and selling. It's good to be able to sell things that you don't need, but then you end up buying things, and I don't know. I'm still working all of that, but I journaled my thoughts on that. And then next, I have documented when I got my Taiwan beer TN and the 10th anniversary mini TN, and just talking about my traveler's notebook obsession in general. And if you look at my videos, I do have a video where I flip through my documentation of all of my TNs. Like every single one, I took a picture of them and documented like what I use it for. Um, then I have a spread of some people that I met online on Instagram, um, Journal with Jazz and Knock Knock Notes. Like I mean, they're not people that I've met in real life, so I guess it's weird. But I mean, I do chat with them online, and they started selling some stickers, and I wanted to support them, so I, ordered their stickers, even though it's like international and all that kind of stuff. And it just made me realize, like, I wanted to journal about it because it made me realize that oftentimes it's not about the product. I just want to support someone, and that's why I, buy their sticker or whatever. It's not just it's not like about the product. I don't know if that makes sense. But yeah, you just want to support the person. So yeah, journaling about all of that and the stationery community in general. So then we go into the end of 2024. I have entries for different notebooks I bought to use for 2025. So I've documented my Midori Hibino that I use for doodles. I will have an updated video to flip through all the stuff that I have doodled in it. I was totally behind because I didn't take it with me on summer vacation. So yeah, it's a game of catch up right now. And then I also have my R Studio Research Journal, which is, gosh, it is such a pretty planner. It's so artistic, it's beautiful. It's a monthly and weekly planner, but with like the box layouts. I did use it all the way up to summer vacation. Again, because I went on summer vacation and obviously I could not bring all my books, yeah, a lot of stuff fell off. But I just realized it was okay. I had fun while I was using it. And I don't know if this is sacrilege, but I've already cannibalized it, meaning like I've cut it apart because I've put it in other things. Yeah, that's another video. But it is a very pretty planner. And so if you like their illustration and that kind of thing, you would be interested in the R's Research Journal planner. But you could also just buy like their stickers, their pet tapes, like if you like their illustrations. And then, of course, I have my Hobonichi documentation here because I got the Hobonichi weeks for my personal log as usual. And I also did get an A6 for creative journaling. And like I said, at some point, I will have to do a video going through my all my journals and stuff, because I think I've very much like have a good like setup right now, like system, I guess you could say, of why I have so many different notebooks and how I use them differently. And again, I know it's not for everyone. Not everyone needs like multiple books because some people just have their one and only and they're perfectly fine, which is great. I think everyone just has to figure it out for themselves. Um, yeah. So this handout for Hobonichi, it's really spooky, right? And I know a lot of people thought it was scary. And for me, I think I've mentioned it before, the colors and all that, it makes me think of communist China propaganda. So I think that's why I didn't like it and I was really afraid of it at first. So just not my favorite, but I read through it. I went through the comic online and then it made more sense and I certainly appreciate it more. And I appreciate, that Hobonichi does different things all the time. They're not always the same. But yeah, just not my favorite. Then I have documented my Travelers 2025, the theme here. And it's interesting because I don't know, it's the algorithm, right? But like the people that I follow on social media, most people did not like this theme. It's so sad. They did not like the love and trip. And maybe they just didn't like the phrase, they didn't jive with it. I, on the other hand, totally loved it. I seriously was all into this whole idea. I just loved the fact that it was about community and love and common ground. The fact that you could be traveling, know nothing about the person, but you have this common ground like your traveler's notebooks to start talking to someone. And again, if you read the blog that is on the Travelers Company blog about the sticker designs, about the theme, what it means, where it all came from, like the inspirations that they took from, I think it might help to understand more of the theme. I think, like most things, sort of like what Hobonichi always does, right? They tell you the story behind why they created something. And when you have that context, I think you will appreciate more um, like the designs. So then I have a spread here for a bunch of stationery things that I purchased from fountain pens from AliExpress, which is another slippery slope, and then beautiful stickers and collage supplies from Modern Analog. I think she's in France. Um, and I also bought a thermal printer. Which honestly I rarely use, even though I really like it. I think it's so cool. I bought like the clear kind of paper and the white paper. Um, I don't know, documenting it sort of made me revisit it. Uh, but I do have a lot of ideas on how I can use it in my journaling, which is the whole point of why I got it. But yeah, I haven't been using it, which is too bad. And I think it's one of those things where, like, when you just have too many things, right? Which is why organization is important because when you have things organized, you you know, you just remember the things that you have and you have it at hand and you actually use it. Um, Next, I have a whole spread about the month of December in 2024 because I bought the Diamine Inkvent calendar. So that whole month was like dominated about inks, fountain pens, that kind of thing. So I was, yeah, hyper focused on that. And suddenly, I had like so many bottles of ink, and from there I did acquire many other bottles because I was just like down that rabbit hole of fountain pen inks. But there are no regrets. I really enjoy my fountain pens, my fountain pen inks. I love playing with them, and I feel like it's like new creative territory, right? Like when you discover a new thing, like tool, medium, whatever. So I'm very thankful to have tried out the advent calendar. I don't know if I would necessarily get it again because it's a lot of ink. And the thing with Diamine is that their advent calendar, they release it, but then like months later, they will release all the inks as like separate ink bottles. So if you really do love something, you could just buy it specifically rather than getting the whole advent calendar. But it's also nice to get the advent calendar because you get little bottles and get to try everything out. So I don't know, love hate kind of thing. It will depend on the colors, I suppose, but I don't see myself getting the calendar again, but I will live vicariously through other people and watch all of their videos. Um, the next page I have about Vanderspec because they are a company um, in the Netherlands. Yeah, they make luxury leather binders, and I have some of their binders. And again, for journaling processes, I don't even use it for planning. They, just make really high quality stuff, and you can also order completely custom things. So I think that that is one of their like you know, different kind of options is because it could be totally custom. And the crazy amazing thing is that at the end of their whole like Christmas like countdown, they had like a bunch of deals, a bunch of like discounts and stuff. So if you're interested in Vanderspec, definitely wait for Christmas because I think they always do like really good deals for the entire month. But at the end of the month, I actually won their like Christmas competition puzzle thing. Like I figured out the puzzle and I commented on Instagram and I was actually first. Literally, it was like crazy. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't think it would be me." But yeah, I just felt very, very grateful and happy. And yeah, good vibes, right? In the stationery community and the whole community. And so I documented that and it definitely made like 2025 start with such like good feelings, and love. Um then I go into documentation of my new Leonardo fountain pens. I bought directly from them because they are here in Italy, and I do have specific videos about that if you're interested in the fountain pens. Then I have a whole spread for paper treats because I just discovered her, did not know she has a um, online stationery shop, even though she's based in Los Angeles. And she also has a seasonal like stationery magazine, like an actual paper that's called like Paper Trees. So I just had to get it. And yeah, she just has a lot of like really hard to find like Japanese things, like products, right? So I just had to document it this first time that I got the newspaper because it took forever to arrive. And usually like mail from the US to Italy doesn't take that long, but it did finally arrive with this message on the package. It says missent to Taipei. Is that not just hilarious? I don't know if that has ever happened to you before, but I had to like document this. But I'm so thankful that it got redirected and reached me in the end. It's like, wow, postal people, like, thank you. You know what I mean? Like, I know mistakes can happen, but like, it eventually did get to me. So that is very cool. Next, I have a page of like other shops that I order from. Again, um, Nanny Craft Shop, Marcy's Art. Oh my gosh, go check out her YouTube channel. Her 5 year Hobonichi is so inspiring. She does art in it. But yeah, I just love discovering, illustrators and people making their things, creating art, and I just want to support them. And especially if they're here in Europe, because just coming from the US, I probably know less, right, about all the European shops and creators and designers, so I want to learn more about them. But also bigger shops like Miso Paper in the UK, I actually didn't realize that she collects all the duties beforehand. So even though she's in the UK, which is no longer in the EU, whatever price it says on her website, like everything is paid up front. So it is possible to order from her, and it's sort of like the only place that I can get Coffee Monsters Co. stuff easily. So yeah, that is what I documented here. And then on the right hand side here, I documented my first Esterbrook SD because it was the Coffee Monsters Co. collaboration pen. No shade to Esterbrook or Hard Feelings. I've actually already made videos on this whole like thing um, because I don't know. I've always wanted an SD, but I don't really like the cracked resin look. Like it's not my favorite. But when Helen came out with this collab, I really, really wanted it really mostly because I wanted to support her. And it's like another one of this reoccurring themes kind of thing where like sometimes it's not even like it's not totally about the product. You know, it's partially about the product, but it is more about you wanting to support the person in the stationery community. And Helen, I mean, besides the fact that she is a wonderful person and obviously you guys probably know about the Coffee Monsters Co already and support her, but it for me it was like this thing about how you can be a kid just doing your art, sharing your stuff on social media, then it becomes something bigger and it grows into like your business. Like it's just a wonderful, good feeling kind of origin story. And it's something that reminds me of the really good part of the internet, you know, because there's like a lot of bad stuff that can happen because of social media and the internet and all that kind of stuff. But this is like an example of the good things. You know what I mean? And I really like that. So yeah, I bought my pen from Apple Bloom and it was a pre-order. It took forever. There were issues with pens. You can go watch the video with it. But in the end, I got it fixed. It's all good. The pen writes well. I do like it. Um, I just don't know that I would necessarily buy like all the Estabrooks because there are many options out there and everyone's going to have their own taste, right? So I did put the Bennu logo here because, on the contrary, I want all the Bennu pens. And I don't know, maybe it's a phase, so I'm letting myself, like, you know, simmer in it. But I already have a few, like, quite a few Bennu pens, and I love them all. And I do want many more. So, yeah, just a personal thing. Um, so, documenting all of that. Next, I have documented that I bought both of the Traveler's Company Love and Trip, the red burgundy covers. And again, I love the theme, so as soon as they announced this, I knew I was going to get it anyways. They are special edition covers. They have the special embossing on the back that says Love and Trip. So yeah, I knew I was going to get these. It's interesting, like after the fact, when I think about it now, a lot of people didn't like the theme, right? And when they announced these covers, though, people sort of went crazy and wanted the cover anyway. So I don't know. I think it's the color because it's something that is limited. You don't know if they would add it to the lineup one day, but of course, these limited edition ones do have the embossing on the back, so it is like special. But yeah. On the side here, I decided to also journal about customizing one of my TNs. This is a camel passport, and I basically stamped and heat embossed like a whole bunch of designs on it, and I really do love it. The heat embossing makes like the, you know, like it's like raised. So I love touching this TN. It's like very tactile. But I did make a whole video of the process if you are interested in watching. But yeah, this is just like definitely um, something that I am pushing myself to do is like to really use all my stuff and not be afraid to alter it. I think in the past, I was very much like careful with my things. And it's like, oh, I don't want to mess it up. I don't want to, you know, ruin it. I want to keep it clean, pristine. You know, of course, I'm not going to like purposefully trash my stuff, but, you know, I think I've gotten to a good point where it's like, yes, I want my things to be nice, but at the same time, I really, really want to use them. So there's that balance, you know, that you have to strike. Next, I have documented uh, this past summer. So I happened to be on vacation in California at the right time where Mount Forest is a stationery store in Pasadena, California. They had an opening and like a stationery event. So I was really, really happy that I was able to attend. I went with my daughter, and yeah, she just really liked it as well. It was such like a friendly atmosphere, like organized, really nice. All the stationery peoples, yeah, just really, really nice. It was not crazy because I think that they organized it very well. Like you had to wait in line, but it wasn't like a frenzy craziness, you know? So I didn't find it to be overwhelming, even being like an introvert. And yeah, I just really enjoyed my experience. And oh gosh, I wish there was like a brick and mortar stationery shop like in my town. That would be so cool. Yeah, so I documented that. I also documented Yoseka because whenever I go to the US, or someone goes to New York and they're in the area, then they can pick up something for me. Because I can't really, I mean, I think you can order internationally, but the shipping is like insanely high. It's just not really feasible to order internationally. But whenever I am in the US, then I will make an order or ask someone to buy me things and like keep it in the US for me, because I have family in the US, so I'm always visiting. But I finally was able to get the Yoseka Tien insert. It's that like green one, so it's just really special. I don't know what I'm gonna use it for yet, but I will use it. I'm not gonna keep it like, just to keep it. I know I'm gonna use it, but I just um, haven't figured it out yet. But yeah, you can get that special insert from their shop. Then I have a page that I titled Stationery Stats because I wanted to note my social media, Instagram and YouTube, because really my social media is all about like stationery. So I want to thank you, by the way, for watching you here on my YouTube channel because I did get to 3K subscribers, which I'm very thankful for. I think I'm just really grateful to have this outlet for like this really nerdy stationery and fountain pen, like that kind of thing, and to connect with like-minded folks because this is very much like a joyful hobby, just fun times kind of thing for me. So thank you so much for being here. And so I've journaled about that and um, just wanted to talk about my stationery hobby and thoughts in 2025 and sort of like all the things, consumption, all that kind of stuff. Um, Next, I did go into a spread about my Paper Republic covers, which I got my first ones years back, and I recently just got two new colors, so it was a good opportunity to journal about like the whole journey kind of thing. As you can see, I like stationary things, so even though I like certain brands, it doesn't mean that I don't use other brands. So Paper Republic, I have always been intrigued by them. They are in Austria, but the leather they use is actually from Italy, like local to me, actually. It's like pretty interesting. But yeah, their leather is divine. Like this is what you would expect if you came to Tuscany and like wanted leather stuff. That is the veg tan, Tuscan like leather kind of style. So Paper Republic, different from Traveler's Notebook, is that they have a larger size and they also do custom stuff. So if you like Traveler's Notebook, but you want different sizes, you want custom stuff, you want a trifold, you want pockets, they do all of that besides their classic line. So I wanted their notebooks because I really like the A5 kind of size. So yeah, I have two that I use with Moleskine notebooks for ephemera, and then I have another two that I'm using for creative artwork. And then I have a spread here for the month of August 2025, the Hobonichi previews. So yes, this year I think is the year that I have enjoyed the month of previews the most because I sort of got to this point where I had like zero pressure of what I needed to buy or not buy. I sort of like got over the whole pre order or hype of like releases kind of things because honestly, from experience, I know there will always be restocks. And even if something does sell out and it doesn't restock, I know that there will be something else that takes its place that I will have no issues enjoying. I think that there are no shortage of like cool stationery products. I think personally, I've just made peace with that. So, with that different perspective, oh my gosh, it made it so enjoyable. Like this August preview, getting to see like new designs daily, just chit-chatting about it, enjoying it. Like letting myself enjoy the designs, the stories, and all that kind of stuff. So I did a whole spread printing out like my favorites, my notes, things like that. But yeah, I didn't order. You know what I mean? Like I had no rush. Um, I honestly don't really need anything this year. And of course, I thought about things that I could use or could do, but again, no rush because we are in September. Normally, I don't order direct from Hobonichi because I probably don't buy enough items. I usually just order from local spots. But this year, I do love the whole robot thing. I don't know if it's a trend because, like, Travelers Company, didn't they have the theme Love and Trip? And now Hobonichi, a year later, has the theme, like, You Love You. I know it's not exactly the same thing, but it's like around these thoughts of like love and community and that kind of thing. I just love these topics. But, anyways, there is no rush. I am taking my time. um, I do love Hobonichi for certain things, but I think that I'm okay. I'm like not in the frenzy kind of thing. So I think that it is loads of fun to be able to just enjoy like the stationery community, the releases, like all the cool stuff, and you can print out things and journal about it. And it's like all part of the fun because of course you can admire cool things, right? But you don't necessarily have to buy it. And even if I want to buy it, like I just have plenty of time. Like there's no rush. Next, I did document my Kinbor 2026 planner. I did get that already. I also put this uh, Kiwis Canada. I follow her on Instagram. Printout because it has this exasperated expression in Cantonese. It's pretty funny. But anyways, the reason why it matched up is because I bought the pink A5 Kimbor, and it's for creative journaling, so just like a lower price for like a book, but it has a spelling mistake on the front cover. And I know you get what you pay for kind of thing, right? Um, like Kimbor planners and like the Boston paper, it is really good for like the price that you're getting, but I I know just from every single year, there's always something in one of their planners every single year where there'll be like a spelling mistake or whatever. If you look at the pages themselves, they're not always perfectly aligned. Um, and again, people say you get what you pay for, right? Um, I don't think that it's a low level of quality control. I think it's their threshold. Like the threshold of what they will accept and they'll still sell it because, it's cheap stuff. Cheap. I mean, it's not really that cheap, but like cuz I think the prices of everything have risen, but it's still cheaper than a Hobonichi, I guess. But yeah, I just thought it was funny because it's like not a big deal. I'm just using it for creative journaling, so a lot of things are going to be covered up and whatever. Um but I just thought it was funny, so I put it there. And of course, um if you're on YouTube and you love stationery, you probably could not avoid all the videos about Louise Carmen leather notebook covers. I definitely felt the FOMO. I've known about Louise Carmen for years, but yeah, I think they blew up because maybe like TikTok people, like social media, things blow up. Um, but what I did was I just did a bunch of DIYs, and I did make a video about this, so you can go back and check it out. But basically, that banished the FOMO for me, which was really great because I don't need more covers and I honestly don't even really like trifold. So, like, what am I thinking? It was just all the FOMO feelings, right? Like, sometimes you can't help it, like, you just feel it. But it goes to show I had to remind myself, like, the antidote to all of like the FOMO thingies, like, I just have to go make something and I will get over it and I feel much better after the fact. So, that's why I documented this whole thing. Next, I have a full spread about La Dolce Vita. Love their illustrations, all the girls. I've had their stuff for a long time, and I recently bought a bunch of new stickers and stuff, so I wanted to document it here. But I also think it's really funny that one of their postcards spells the word stationery wrong. They put, stationery with an A instead of stationery with an E. I don't know. It's such a pet peeve. I mean, it's not serious, of course. Anyone can make a mistake in spelling, but I just think it's funny when people say like I love stationery, but then they actually don't know the official word. And I think that sometimes it's an honest mistake, but I think sometimes people don't know. So I want to like create something that is definitely something on my list, like a sticker or something. I'm sure they already exist, but yeah, stationery with an E. So just documenting all of this. Um, Yeah, I know I have a lot of things, but I am proud of myself for keeping on top of things and working on my decluttering and organizing this year. And so the next spread, I'm sharing my stationery inventory spread because I wanted to sort of categorize the different things. I've been doing a lot of decluttering. I just go in groups and like passes. But yeah, I'm really happy to like document it and like I'm facing the issue, so to speak. I'm not just like shoving things in a drawer and forgetting about it. I'm really working on it. And obviously, it's a constant process because, like, we're accumulating, we're using. Um, I, it's like just an ongoing kind of thing. So I just want to make sure that I constantly remind myself, like, to be mindful. And ultimately, at the end of the day, it's like to create, right? Because ultimately, all of these stationary things, the inks, the fountain pens, the stickers, the notebooks, the cuteness, inventions, tools, whatever, all the analog things. Ultimately, it's all to help me create because that's what I want to do with it, right? I want to use it. I want to make my memory books. I maybe have like productive, functional stuff, but I have a lot of like creative journaling, art journaling, whatever. I want to create things. That's what they are for. So, for me personally, ultimately, that is the point. So I'm really trying to like remind myself that and make it a point to use all the things, if I want to cut apart something, if I want to tear it apart, if I want to alter it, I'm going to use it however it serves me. And I've really been trying to lean into that. So yeah, just documenting all the things here. um, and by the way, I still have more things to document, but I usually just slip them in the following pages. So then when I have time, I will go in and document. But yeah, this is the final spread that I wanted to share with you. And yeah, that's my stationery journal. It's getting nice and chunky. Um, but you can see this clear cover. I mean, there's so much more room. Obviously, this Stalogy has like 365 pages. I still have so many pages to fill. So this is going to be hopefully many, many years of stationery journaling to come. Um, Thank you so, so much for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. And normally, I think my stationery chit chat videos would be shorter because it would just be like little topics here and there. But this first one, I just wanted to share the stationery journal to like start things off because that's basically what I want to share in this stationary chit chat kind of video that I'll probably do on a monthly basis. So please do subscribe to my channel if you like videos like this. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. And finally, if you didn't already know, I am a creative designer. I draw and design lots of pattern papers and printables for journaling. If you would like to support me in my work, you can consider becoming a member of my Ko-fi. That's where you can get all my printables to download and print at home. It's all in the description below if you're interested. Of course, you can also just go to my blog, tortajala.com. I've had it there for years. It has completely free downloads. The advertisement traffic on it is what keeps the blog sustainable. So it is a place for me to be able to share with my crafty friends all the papers and things to give you some supplies for journaling. So, totally free pattern papers, all types. There are hundreds and hundreds of posts already there, and I regularly add to it. So, thank you so much for being here, watching my video. It means a lot to me when you watch and comment, and I would love to chit chat about any and all of the stationary things. This little stationary YouTube community is seriously one of the most enjoyable things in my life, and I just very much appreciate you being here. So, thank you so much for spending your time with me. I hope you have a very lovely day, and until next time, bye.